The administrative profession holds both routine and unexpected demands throughout each day. Due to each role being unique, much like your thumbprint, there's no manual that makes it black and white or a no-brainer. However, having transitioned from the profession myself turned specialized headhunter, I've been blessed with over 2,500 one-on-one connections with admins living this profession each day. They've shared with me remedies, ideas, and hilarious moments which could help others transition from, and I air quote, the word island, in which we feel and see ourselves living, to a place of community. Each PS episode, of which I'll let you know, PS stands for permission slip, not postscript. These episodes will deliver thought-provoking moments to help you navigate your admin world. Let's get to today's topic. Welcome, everyone, to a PS episode. I'm kind of chuckling over here at home in my home office as I'm sitting here in front of all of my materials, getting ready to talk about what is clearly a controversial topic and subject and title for this PS episode. I know that compensation and money is a sensitive topic. I'm talking about it every day with candidates, with executives. And so when I decided to make such a controversial title for this episode, I reached out to my trusted advisors and I said, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear me advise you? Don't ask for a raise. And they all laughed, every one of them. They all laughed. They're like, oh my gosh, what are you going to talk about? I can only imagine. And then an immediate pivot is, well, what are you going to talk about? Like, what could you say? Like, why would you tell us not to ask for a raise? And obviously, there's a little bit of humor in that, but then there's also some reality. The stuff I'm going to share with you today is intense, so definitely buckle up. And it's intense because I'm going to really get that mental gymnastics triggered in a great way today to think about all the things around compensation. I have several stories I'm going to cover that are going to hit home for you. I'm going to share some stories that are going to open up channels of preparation for you. And I want to declare here, and I even posted this morning on LinkedIn, I'll reshare it at the time of this podcast episode going live. I received an email from a client. We're having an exchange, really finishing out that job description. I said, tell me what the budget allows, not what you think it's worth. And the HR individual came back and said, here's the Colorado state guidance range for compensation. And it was 55.6, I think, to 69. And I kindly responded, knowing I'm coming not just to perform a service, but to insert wisdom. And I said, I think that's great. However, they are missing a lot of criteria to help them arrive to that. That's probably a one-on-one relationship, and the job duties and responsibilities are going to be different than what you need. Yours is a 4-to-1, 4 executives, 1 admin, and you have board meetings included, which are monthly, not quarterly. And the response was, thank you for this extra insight. We'll go to the higher end of the range. We want a rock star. And so I start with that story because compensation for admins is all over the place. And I realize that touchiness with this because a lot of the admins out there don't believe they're getting appropriately compensated. And so the wisdom I'm also going to mention is money doesn't help every time. You should be asking and finding creative ways during reviews or the offer stage of getting new employment that promotes advocating for yourself, what you're worth, but it doesn't have to be attached to a dollar amount. And I'll have another story on that too. I want to start with some principles, and I've got an acronym that I made up for this episode that I'll be using definitely going forward, and it has a double meaning. The word is GLAD, G-L-A-D, and we're using that word because it's positive. We're using that word because we're traditionally glad and happy after we invest energy and time into something that, yes, is a reward back to us. I'm so glad I went and got my nails done. Or I'm so glad I went and got my hair did, right? It's those things that we enjoy that give back into us. And so the acronym would be goals, leverage, ask, and define. Goals, leverage, ask, and define. And when I say goals is what is your background? What is missing that you are looking to attain? Is it diversity? Is it sitting at a meeting? You have to figure out, what are you moving towards? We immediately declare we're on a diet, and that diet could include wellness, fitness, mindset, and a change in our size of clothes. And so diet immediately indicates actions beyond that. So for goals, why do you want to ask for a raise? Is it because you've absorbed a lot because the organization did a layoff? So what's the goal in asking for a raise? Or a creative ask as it relates to your review and asking for, maybe they're going back to the office full time and you really loved working at home. You want to declare that at no financial cost, but a huge benefit to you, you want to work from home twice a month. Now, there's obviously going to be a rabbit hole or a tangent I could go on that I won't, that no one else is getting that. It's too much of special treatment for you, and I get that. So try to get creative. The next one is leverage. What do you do? How are you amazing? What problem do you solve? What strengths are you using to apply to this role? Your role, a future role. What are you leveraging? In addition to skills and is habits. What habits do you have? Are you totally type A, uppercase A, on calendar management, organization, filing structure, double and triple checking yourself? I mean, what are you existing? What existing things are you leveraging to be amazing, which solidifies if you need to ask for a raise? If you're struggling identifying that, it's going to go to the next one. But it should also be connected to your goals, right? Hey, I'm using 9 out of 10 amazing things about myself. I want to use this 10th one, which is connected to my goal of doing project management. You've created an intersection of what your goals are and how they apply to what you have to offer and or what you want to go out and get, which will go to maybe asking for professional development monies instead of a raise in your paycheck. That's forthcoming. The next one is ask, and I'm hearing a lot of this with the calls I'm having with candidates on the assignments I'm working on. And it's been like this for the last 4 years. You guys don't really have trusted advisors, and that's a bummer. And it comes down to we're afraid to be judged. We're uncomfortable hearing what someone thinks of us. And or we only have one advisor, so there's no diversity in feedback. Could you imagine if Mark Zuckerberg only had Sheryl Sandberg as the advisor? It would be so limiting on the potential of being such a conglomerate as big. So you need to diversify your trusted advisor group. So ask around, what is a strength about mine that you love? And when I'm doing reference calls for candidates, I mean, these people kind of, which is great, right? They start talking in my ear and they can't shut up about the person that we're talking about because they absolutely love this individual and they couldn't wait to be a reference for them. And so really thinking of who your trusted advisors are, and I believe a minimum of 3 is really helpful to you. The last one is define. We'll park here for a little while. I've said this before, so this won't be new for my regular listeners, and I'm smiling as I say it. Stop thinking so big. Really embrace the steps of 1.0, 2.0, mile marker here, mile marker there. And I've also said, don't dismiss and put aside such grand thinking, But much like as I mentioned with dieting, we get to, I want to lose 20 pounds. And it's like, well, let's find places to reward ourselves, markers in which we lose 2.5 pounds, we lose that 6 pounds. And I'm using unconventional numbers because we always go 5, 10, 15, 20. Let's be a little different. Let's get excited about 2.5 pounds. So you need to define what success looks like. And I actually talk about this in another episode called WTF. No, it's not what you think, but it's very helpful. You have to listen to the episode to know what actually that means. And defining a plan. What does success look like with identifying the job duties and responsibilities you have to prepare yourself for the moment you're going to ask for that raise? And so I'll say right here, yes, I want you guys to ask for a raise. Clearly, I'm a huge advocate for properly being compensated. But in a few moments, I'm going to get to what limitations happen when you know you're worth more. And the organization just can't give it. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. When you are thinking about asking for a raise, preparing for a review, I said this to an individual who was going to receive an offer, and we were talking about the appropriate comp for her. And I said, the opportunity is amazing. They can pay you, which we've been talking about, candidate A. You're going to get the offer. It is a financial lateral move. You're not going to make any more money. But look at this huge, wide double door you've walked into of opportunity. And she absolutely recognized that. And so I want to just insert here, a raise doesn't have to be financial. A raise can be exposure to new things you know nothing about. And it's really important to identify that. And I'm going to move to my next thing. I recognize that when you guys leave a role and you move to something new, and I'm using a real example in this next thing, she was making $100,000 a year. And she had been with the organization for 7 years. And I said, what did you make when you started? She goes, I started at 75. I said, that's great. That's a really strong starting point. You showed your unicorn status year over year and got a raise and got a raise. And at that organization, based on annual raises and bonuses, 100K is totally great. So I challenge you guys, because you're like, oh my God, what is she going to say next? Does that mean that she will always be 100 wherever she goes? As I've said in the past, no two EAs are alike. Therefore, no two true EA roles are identical. And I've said this before, common things are obviously in the fold of being a badass EA. Calendar travel is picking up again. Expense reporting will pick up right with that. Making an impact, strategic planning, board of directors. I mean, yes, the list continues. And I asked her, I said, I don't want you anyone ever to think that I want to undercompensate you, but this is a different organization. She's not with that company. She's been out of work for 1.5 years by choice. And I said, we need to know the right number that you are comfortable with that is very close to your old number, but realizing. And she cut me off. She's like, yeah, you're right. Realizing I've been out of the game for a while. I'm also starting somewhere else. She's not going to obviously take a 60 unless her situation is very comfortable because her partner is able to, pick up the slack, which is going to my next word, frugal living. And it'll be connected to some really raw and hardcore information on slowing down on making a lot of money. So I did say this is going to be a great episode, so make sure you're buckled in. So she got an amazing offer, and it was for $95,000. So $5,000 is a lot of money, but sometimes $5,000 is not a lot of money. And she realized that the potential long-term, this executive is extremely powerful and very well-known in the community, that the exposure and the tenure potential of just parking herself to be in a great situation and not having to look for more work, which also winds up coming up of, what am I doing? Which sort of goes back to the GLAD acronym. What's my goal here? So I want to talk about being frugal. I want to talk about being frugal. And I think one of the gifts of 2020 really taught us how to not go out to eat as often, not be at Starbucks, not buy those clothes that we thought we needed. The stock market rebounded quite well because people were doing great with, investing and paying attention to their 401ks, which is a large portion of the market. How can you be a little frugal? And so this goes to my next thing. I've talked to and I've helped a lot of people make really good money in their late 30s and 40s. And all of the other age groups that I've been blessed to work with, women in their 50s, men in their 30s. And I've started saying this, and this happened in 2020. Some of these admins who are early 40s are making 80 to 100K. And this is some hard truth for those that are like, I need to make more. Here in Denver, we do not have the same salary, although we absolutely need it, to Silicon Valley, New York City, Miami, and big markets also like Chicago. And if you're pricing yourself high to where it's not easy to digest for your prospective new employer, you will take a pay cut. And I feel very strongly to advocate here, everyone should be paid what they're worth. Now, this is the part of the reason for this whole episode is what are you worth? And so that's why I want to also inspire you guys to think about professional development. At your next raise, you can get the standard 2.5, or you can say, hey, which would make you look amazing. I only want 2 in my salary, but I want the potential for 1,000 in professional development, which is different on the budget and allocation for the company. So that's great. And they're paying no extra taxes, which is a huge deal on paying taxes for the employees. You guys make 85, but they're dropping like $9,000 to federal and state taxes on top of that for just you. That's a big deal. So why not get professional development, which essentially buys you maybe another year because you're growing your skills. So think about the compensation piece and then being creative with still having a reward that is a financial opportunity to spend, but maybe doesn't have to be in your bank account. That's one of my biggest things about wanting to do this particular episode. Here's another case in point. There's an episode out, I believe it's just an EA, overqualified, you want to be a chief of staff. And my wonderful guest, Mindy, she and I have a great story, and we actually recorded that live in front of an audience over Zoom at the end of 2020. And she could not get a fucking job. She was priced super high. She was always second in line. And she and I started to get frustrated, not neither at the other, but collectively for the process. She's like, I got too much money too soon. And I expanded in my career too early. And I am now like, I can't get employment. Because you have to realize who are you being compared against, especially inside your organization, if there's a chance for a promotion, which is the other thing to sort of have your eyes looking on is where is opportunity? Sort of going to that GLAD acronym. What is that goal? Yes, a straight up, flat out goal of I want more money. Listen, hey, money is great. It doesn't make the world go round. And at the end of the day, when you do pass off to go to your next life, you don't take any of it with you. And so that is, at least for me very personally, one of the big gifts of 2020. The next thing, Mindy's story is great. You guys need to listen to that and really get in the mindset of slowing down. And this next story is going to kind of hit home, at least for a few of you. It sure did for me. So I'm getting my nails done. And it is a full salon of beautiful women who are not from this country. And I love them. They love me. And I'm sitting there and she's doing my nails. I'm like, she does the same thing every day. And she's so happy. She's so happy. The thing that might be different is the client, the nail color, the decoration, a manicure versus a pedicure, or both. And I thought, I'm never jealous of things, but there was a part of me that thought, I really admire that she's comfortable with the same thing every day. And as I was sitting there, I then thought about this episode because I've been developing these thoughts in my mind for a while. Can't we just sort of have a little bit of that in our life? Why not? Why not be okay with downtime, which then sort of slows down that pressure you put on yourself for, I'm doing way too much, I need a raise. So that's sort of connected to being patient and the timing of things. And another thing with the GLAD acronym is when you really design a plan connected to those 4 categories, you become stronger in your vocabulary on your why you should deserve a raise, or why you want to do professional development, or why I want an extra week instead of more cash a year in vacation. And it's those types of things that promote creative solution solving. One of my clients said to me, the one thing I love about Kelly is she's a solutions finder, like all day long, which I know so many of us that, sets us up on a level of excitement, like, oh my gosh, there's a problem. I've got a problem solve and I've got to get it going. And it would be really neat for you guys to get creative, especially with this recovery year of 2021, not knowing what the rest of the year looks like or into next year. And so thinking of creative ways, as well as, like I mentioned, being frugal, right? The more money you make every year, and then the other story about 100 and she took 95, does that 100% identify when you go to another role and they may only have 85, but you love the opportunity that you're walking through in double doors to say, this is my work home? Are you able to live off of 10,000 less? And if not, I get it. Maybe you're even the main breadwinner. Totally get that too. And so start designing kind of a strategy on how you want to advocate for yourself, being creative with requests. Maybe it's, working 7 to 4 every day, and you'll check in from 7 to 8 p.m. for anything you miss, but you have that chunk of 4 to 7 p.m. We do have the opportunity to think away, and this is a big deal as a business owner. Revenue doesn't tell Hilani that I'm successful. That's straight up how I think about my business. People in the community looking for my help and my service is what gives me the sensation and feeling that I'm successful. And so for you guys, you can translate that to, I'm making 66. Everyone in the company knows my name. I am the go-to, the resource. That is another identifier of success, not just the money that we make. And I know that we're in a society where MSNBC is going to tell us, oh, the company's, year-over-year growth is amazing, and it's attached immediately to a cash number. Why can't it be, they've added 20 new employees, but the year-over-year growth has been stable versus increasing? We really have to change, for the greater good, the lens in which we look through things. So I'm going to close on this, which is kind of a big deal. Actually, I have 2 more parts. And I'm going to make this statement. A car can't move without wheels. You are the wheels for your executive in the organization. One of the biggest things I come across a lot when I'm talking to leaders is what is the return on investment, the ROI on an assistant? Hilani, they don't bring in revenue, which I just then start to let them explain themselves while I'm smiling, waiting for them to kindly stop so I can insert on the advocacy of your return on value, return on investment. They don't do sales, they're not doing business development, they're not in HR doing hiring, they don't do accounting to save us on, budgets and stuff like that. And I immediately, just it's one sentence, I said, what's your time worth? And they're surprised by that because no one ever asks them what their time is worth. Their entire world is for others and the organization. They very rarely look inward unless they're planning for that great, vacation. And they're like, my time's worth a lot. I said, do you know how to multiply your time? Do you know how to turn 1 minute into 2 minutes in the same single minute on the clock? They're like, no. I said, that is the return on investment with an assistant. And if your time is valuable, if your health is being compromised because you're without time, time is priceless. Time is also something we cannot control. And so how do we multiply time? You get an assistant. And so a car can't move without wheels, and you are the wheels. And so if you're thinking about using the GLAD acronym to identify your goals, what you leverage of yourself to apply to your role, which is ultimately where you talk about time. I'm here because I'm so organized. I'm always anticipating, working months in advance, looking for issues and problem solving before they show up. You save someone time. You save a company thousands of dollars with a mistake, and the mistake never happened. So they never had to reconcile that in accounting. And that is your return on investment. And so for another $2,500 a year, divide that by 2080, which is a standard 40 hours a week, which you and I all know, we don't work just only 40 hours. What is that additional hourly rate? 75 cents an hour more for you? So if your executive's worth $500 an hour and you're making $42 an hour, $42.75 now, yeah, there's should be no issue with that ask. And in closing, the GLAD acronym is great. Planning is great. And that planning is creative, and sitting down and looking at your budget. What does it mean? I'm going to say here, what if? What if I slow down on my compensation journey? I'm 43. I'm personally 42, but I'm using 43 as an example. Someone who's 43, you got a lot of years left of you, 20, to keep working. There is a high chance you're going to get to that ceiling and not be able to break through it if you're making too much money for the market. And are you going to up your family and move to San Francisco where the compensation is more? Probably not. I'm hearing a lot of people wanting to move here and other areas. And I'm going to also say something quite profound, and I get a chuckle out of it. The more money you make as an assistant, the more you sell your soul. So I'm hoping many of you laugh at that and that it kind of shakes you just a little bit to say that's right. And the last thing, and this shouldn't be a surprise for my routine listeners, slow down. Slow down. Design a plan that has more grace in it, more flexibility for maybe truly taking a day off. And, the work I do here at Exceptional Admins is very much around you guys, the whole person. We're not just talking and communicating down the channel of professionalism. I want to talk to you as a person. I want to invest in your thoughts as a human being. I want to invest in you as someone who's like, I got a lot of juice left in me. I don't want to hit the ceiling and then get stuck. Thank you so much, guys, for listening in. I really hope that this time together brought a lot of thought and a few laughs and enjoyment, as well as a plan to take care of you. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your time with me and allowing me the opportunity to inspire you. My intention with the PS episodes are for you to rediscover why you're in this profession and continue to love it. Have a great day.